started Good Morning Cousin Mary after my cousin Mary and I had been conversing for a little while. We both were born in Michigan. She was raised there. My family left to go to South Florida when I was 4 years old. I was raised in Florida. I lived in Fort Lauderdale area most of my life before moving to the Gainesville area, and I lived there a large portion of my life, and then I moved to Texas 10 years ago. Well, actually 17. I moved to Texas 17 years ago. My cousin Mary and I hadn't heard from one another. We saw each other when I was in my 20s, early 20s. It's been maybe 40, 43 years since we had heard from one another. And I was setting up my messenger from Facebook. I never use it, and it kept bugging me to install it, so I installed it. And there was a message there from your long lost cousin Mary. I'm thinking, yeah, right. I get a lot of spam. I get a lot of very strange messages and requests. So I read it real leery. In this message, there were things about my family. And I thought, this is my cousin Mary. And at the end, it said, your long lost cousin Mary. And I thought, oh my God, that's my cousin. So I was real excited. And then I looked at the date, and it was over a year that it had been written. And I thought, oh my God. So I hurried and I rushed an email off to her. I really didn't think there was a chance she would be getting it, because I thought, the email could have changed, she could have moved. God knows what could happen in a year when you're 60 years old. And I remember her being a lot older than me. She's not, but so when I got a reply back, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. We have been conversing on the phone, and we've been sending emails back and forth to one another. She's filling me in on my family in Michigan, which I've never had contact with, and my mother's family. We went there when I was 13 and stayed for about a year. We were all Southerners at that point and not used to cold weather, so we didn't last the winter and came back. And I think I was 13, 14, and that was the last time I'd seen any of them. And then cousin Mary had called me, I think in my 20s. She and her husband were going through where I was living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And they stopped by and we had dinner. I wish we would have kept in touch, but you know how that goes. And now later in my life, it's really important to have family around. It's been a real treat to get to know my cousin, and she tells me stories about my family and tells me stories about her children and their children, and Willow and Melissa and her husband Gene. So it's been really, really nice getting to know one another. And that's what this series is about. I feel very, very fortunate that we've had the opportunity to do this, and I only hope that we get to see each other before it's too late. So that's what this is about.